looks like you have some fight background, but like I think a lot of it is just tennis. Like I was very competitive to tennis, and that was really what I did my whole childhood. And then as a teenager I did rugby, so that's pretty rough too. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a big breakthrough. Best base for MMA, tennis out
Hey
here.
exactly.
everybody, we are back with another super special guest. She is a mother, she is an integrative primary care physician, she is also a professional bare knuckle boxer. Our guest today, Dr. Sarah Shell.
Dr. Sarah Shell, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into it. First, I just want to recap that last fight of yours about a month ago now, that Omaha card. Looking back on it, is that kind of how you expected things to go? Are you satisfied with that performance?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like looking back on it, you watch it like thousands of times, like after you do a fight. So of course, like I'm critiquing myself, and am kicking myself a little bit. I feel like I could have capitalized and been a little bit more aggressive and maybe got the finish.
Mm,
But other sides of my camp are saying like you played it smart, like you jab jab jab, like that was the game plan, and the game plan went exactly as planned. So I played it smart, and I didn't give in to that brawling. That I do have the tendency to do, and that I do love to do. I really played it smart. So yeah, I'm happy with how it went, but of course, like I'm critiquing myself, and I'm ready to make those improvements.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, for the people that don't know, you are an integrative primary care physician. Just tell us what exactly that means, like what your day to day looks like, and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a primary care physician in Arizona. So basically, I treat anything and everything, treat, manage, diagnose anything. But I'm very integrative. So I take an approach that includes, incorporating diet and lifestyle and, supplements and any recommendations that I can. And of course, like in the back of my head, like if a prescription is necessary, that's always something that I do. But I'm just someone who takes a whole approach, and not just a prescription. But of course, there's a time and a place for a prescription, and a lot of my patients certainly are on prescriptions. But our goal is to, prevent us from having to add more prescriptions in the future. But yeah, that's basically what I do, and I apply that to myself. So I really balance out and optimize my own diet, lifestyle, and supplements, and really everything. And so I always say like my career goes hand in hand with being an integrated primary care physician and a fighter.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, sort of like a master of none, but you're very knowledgeable in everything. What made you go that route of like primary care as opposed to, diving further and doing like a specialty?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I have everything that I need to do. Like my toolbox is so vast, and my love is in optimizing health. And there's always deeper testing and things that we can do. But when I get people from the first stage, I feel like there's just so much that I can do for really everyone in optimizing health. And I'm just really happy where I am. I feel like there's still so many more avenues that I can expand on. But there's so many people that just don't have the foundation in line. And the foundation is just your basic hormones, vitamins, your basic lifestyle and diet. And there's so many people that need that help. And I'm very happy to do it. I really love my job. And you asked kind of like what my day-to-day job is. My day-to-day job is in the clinic. I own my own clinic. I have a few doctors who work part-time for me, but I'm the full-time doctor here. And my approach is very unique. So a lot of patients come for my approach, and they basically come to me and say, like I don't feel how I felt, 10, 20 years ago, or I have this health condition, and I want to make sure that conditions happening from future. And so I'm that doctor that you come to for, really just optimizing your health, or, really anything at all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now something that's come up probably within like the last, I'd say like 10 years or so, whether it's more prominent or just like there's more light on it, is mental health. Like I notice with myself, if I'm feeling kind of grumpy or something, I like to ask myself, a couple things. Have I gone outside, seen the sun, get some fresh air? And two, like, have I exercised? Just
Yep.
how important is it to, the link between mental health and physical health?
Absolutely. There's there's no short amount of studies to show, physical health is so important for mental health. And I have a lot of people who, they really don't exercise. Like if I ask them if they exercise, they'll be like, I went for a walk, or, and it's just like, no, like you gotta have intentional exercise. Like you're living in a human body, and your salad from Salad and Go like isn't gonna cut it for the amount of vegetables and things that you need, and for nutrients and things. Like it's just not gonna happen, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, I mean, I there's absolutely a link to that. But what's more interesting is what I find too is I get a lot of patients who are on antidepressants or certain medications, and they've never had their blood work checked, like ever. And it's like, well, what's your vitamin D? Like, what's your B12? Like, what's like just basic vitamins. Like, we don't have to do a whole report of, 50 different micronutrients and this and that and the other thing, but like just basic vitamins that we know people are deficient in is like, I get a lot of people who are like, oh, I think it's a hormone problem. It's this. And most often it's just like a vitamin problem. Like, or like you're not getting protein. Like your labs can show that. Your labs can show if you're nutrient deficient, you're protein deficient. Like there's like it shows, and nobody's perfect. It's really hard, unless you have a chef like cooking for you your 5-6 meals a day, and you're spreading it out optimally all throughout the day. Like it's not going to happen. Like nobody's like, it's really hard to be perfect. And so it does break my heart a little bit when, some people are on antidepressants for, what they assume is just going to be for the rest of their life, and they have no other answer, nobody else looking into it for them. And like I said, there's a time and a place for medication. If you need that antidepressant, that's fine, but we should be digging into, what can we do to improve this? Or, maybe you didn't need to be on it at all. Maybe you just had the world's worst vitamin D deficiency. And I'm telling you, I see vitamin D deficiency all day long. Like unless you're a lifeguard in your bikini in the sun all day long, like you have a vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I do not see. I've never seen a perfect vitamin D in someone who is not supplementing. And
Right.
it's crazy. Like I get people from coming from other states that come into Arizona because we're the sunshine state, right? And so it's something that you don't really know that we're just all deficient in. But I get people coming from other states saying that their doctor told them to come off of it because they're going to
Mm.
be in the sun, right? And it's just like, no, don't go off of it. You're already deficient. Like we got to build it up. Sorry to go off on a tangent, but it's just like,
No, that's
and vitamin D is so related to the mood. So like, yes, like go outside, go in the sun, like, get that sunshine. But for vitamin D, like you really should be supplementing it. And I really encourage anyone, like get your vitamin D tested and get it interpreted by someone who just understands labs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Then just you have somebody come in, like you said, you seem like reluctant to just give the prescription right away, which I think is huge. Just what are some like very basic health tips? Like people always have excuses, they don't have time, they're whatever, too busy. What are just basic health tips or exercise things people can do just to really start, going down the right path?
Yeah, I mean, I always just say baby steps, and I wouldn't say that I'm reluctant to prescribe medication. I just basically say like, here's all your options. Like, if you want to do medication, there it is. If you want to do natural, here it is. And everyone's always like, well, what would you do? And so it's always like, well, I've probably, not taken care of my health for 5 to 10 years. Maybe I would do the medication and then get really serious with all the natural stuff. And there's so many different options that you can do. And so I just lay it out for patients and just say like, here's all your options, and take it or leave it. If you want the medication, then that's fine. I would say, just baby steps. Like everyone's all about like, what diet do I start for like this major reset? It's like a lot of time when you find yourself with certain conditions, even just fatigue or feeling like off, like not having your daily habits and your daily exercise in line. Like I would say, like just get started on like booking your exercise like it's a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
Like just go to the gym. Like, and I tell you, like, even if it's just sitting in the sauna and stretching, like just like be in that environment, like get a sweat going. Like it's not that hard to just show up to the gym. It's like it's really not that hard to show up to the gym. It's like I go there like after work, like I've got my kids. Like there's days where you don't want to go, but like you just have to go. It's for your body, it's for your life. Like have to go.
Yeah, yeah, 1000%. A lot of times people say like, just showing up is the hardest part. So like just get yourself there and then, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw that fight in Omaha, going back to the fight stuff,
Yeah.
and I was interested right away. Dr. Sarah Shell, they announced it. It's like, holy cow, this is crazy. Now, I interview a lot of pro wrestlers too, and different fighters,
Cool.
but sometimes the last thing they want to talk about is like their day job and stuff like that. But like, what got you into fighting initially?
You know what? It was really random. I worked at a nutrition store. So during high school, my very first job was working at a nutrition store. So that's how I, really got into fitness. started working out initially to be in a bikini competition. So I've ever since then, for the last 15, 16 years, I'm training for a bikini competition right now. So, that's just another, competing thing that I've stuck with ever since then. But, shortly after I started competing for bikini competitions, there was a fight manager, talking on his phone while I was at work. He sounded, angry and this, that, and the other thing. So I inquired, just working at the nutrition store. And it came out that a female fighter had pulled out of a local fight and he was in charge of setting it up or whatever. I didn't know that females fought. So I was just kind of like, oh, like I'm tough, like females fight, like I could fight, and I had just been training for my bikini competition. So I literally, like, all I did was, run on the treadmill. Like I wasn't
Mm.
even into strength training then like I was now. And so, I just, I had a brother and I was tough. Like I did rugby growing up, like I was a bouncer, so like I, dealt with like drunk women, and
Ugh.
like things like that. So I felt tough. But
Mhm.
anyways, he was like, well, it's in 12 days. Are you sure? And I basically said yes on the spot. And I had zero fighting experience. And so 12 days later, I was fighting, and I believe it was like this was in Vancouver, Canada, because I'm Canadian, so I didn't
Mm.
move to the States until about a year after I started fighting. So when I was
Oh,
like 21. But anyways, yeah. So I think it was like the first event in Vancouver, Canada. So fighting was still just growing. It was the very first fight in Vancouver, BC.
mm.
It just got sanctioned or whatever. So I didn't really know much about it. All I knew was like Chuck Liddell and like UFC, and like watched it with my buddies and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had a fight, and it ended up she was a professional boxer, so I don't know how she was able to do an amateur fight.
Mm.
But that's how it was. Like she was a professional boxer. She had a lot of MMA fights, and I just fell in love with it ever since then. And I think I had 6 MMA fights that year, and a couple like Muay Thai and kickboxing, and I had zero training. Like I literally just went to the gym,
Mhm.
and like, I didn't even shadow box or anything. Like I literally just did my own workouts. Like I just ran on the treadmill, and I had my own little workouts that I did with like my 10 pounders that I literally still do to this day. Like those little like shoulder workouts with the 10 pounders, like and it's just the basics. But I was really just into strength training, and that's about how I got into it.
Yeah.
Whoa, that story was crazy. Make sure you smash that like button, left hook it, whatever you got to do, and subscribe. Let's get back to the
Yeah.
interview.
Wow, that's amazing. 12 days notice for your first fight. That's incredible. That's
I mean,
crazy.
back in the day, like people were just fighting, out of the crowd. So I'm sure
Right.
lots of people have those crazy stories. Like back then, it's not that easy now. Like people are always like, oh, like how do I get into it? And like now, like you got to grind a little bit more to get your face known, and get in there. So like I did get into it at least in an easier way. But once you get in, like it's never easy. Like you got to work hard. Like I've seen a lot of people who get in, and they just don't stay. And I've been in this for a long time, so it's really got to be in your heart to be into it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then that's funny. You said you're kind of stuck with the same routine and stuff like that for a while, even 6 MMA fights and a couple bouts in. At what point did you sort of like dial it in and you started really like doing specific training and stuff like that? Like at what point did you take it kind of to the next level training wise?
Yeah, you know what? So I had my first fight January 2010, and by January 2011, that was I believe the month that I moved to Omaha, Nebraska. So I just
Mm.
realized that everything's bigger in the states. Everything's like 10 times bigger in the states, and they're moving it a little bit faster. And so for competing as a female, there were so many opponents out in the states. So I basically just said, like, I got to do my undergrad in the states. So I got my student, visa, and the whole goal was to do my undergrad because I always valued school. School was always my number one. Even in my MMA gyms and things like that. Like I was always the girl who was just focused on school and fighting for fun. But I was always really taking it seriously. But I can't deny, like, school was my number one. But
Yeah.
that one year after I started fighting, I moved to Omaha. I had a fight in Omaha that December, and I ended up actually, moving into my opponent, that the girl that I fought in December. I fought her and won, so kind of awkward at first to go into the girls' gym that I beat, but she was awesome. She's
Oh
actually
wow.
became one of my best training partners. But I moved into Mid America Martial Arts in Omaha, Nebraska, and I did my whole undergrad there. So I was there for about 4 years. And gosh, like I think I have about 18 MMA fights. So I must have had about 12 MMA fights throughout my undergrad, and so many Muay Thai fights. It was a Muay Thai gym, so I
Mm.
did a lot of Muay Thai and all that. But I basically got really good at my stand up, and it's no surprise. Like I have a 1-2. Like I've always had just that 1-2 snap. I grew up playing tennis. I was a part of the national tennis team for tennis, so I got really far in tennis. So
Mm,
I got to attribute that to my 1-2 like natural punch power. But
mm,
yeah, I mean, I naturally always focused on Muay Thai and stand up because I was at a stand up gym.
okay. Yeah, even tennis, like your shoulder strength, everything like that, the cardio, I'm sure that played a big part of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like people always say, like it looks like you have some fight background, but like I think a lot of it is just tennis. Like I was very competitive to tennis, and that was really what I did my whole childhood. And then as a teenager, I did rugby, so that's pretty rough too. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a big breakthrough. Best base for MMA, tennis. I have to
exactly,
get that out
exactly,
there. But then
exactly.
you make the switch to BKFC. Just what makes you, make that change and everything like that? It's kind of wild, especially for the females. A little different, no gloves, obviously. Just what makes you make that change, and then just explain the difference, like in your
Yeah,
approach to fights and stuff like that with it.
absolutely. I mean, I've always wanted to do boxing, like because of my 1-2, like my punching and my boxing, like that's my strength, like that's my absolute, like my natural strength. And so I always say, like once I learn technique, it's over for you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to swear, but the saying
Hey.
where you say it's over for you bitches.
Yeah,
But
there you go.
but that's what I'm working on. I'm working on technique, because I've never really, really like a lot of what I bring to the table is all just like my natural talent. So I'm really, really working to be, I want to be the best in the world. I want to learn that technique and really own in, and advance my natural skill that I have. But I've always wanted to get into boxing. I've just never had the chance to do that, and it just came the opportunity. I was training for any fight that was available to me, and really with now I got 3 kids. I got an office to run. I'm a full-time doctor. It's very difficult to train in every discipline in MMA, and so it makes sense to make the transition into what I love. I love to punch. And bare knuckle BKFC was just doing an event in Omaha, and that's where I did my undergrad. So I'm basically like the hometown girl there. That's where I did majority of my MMA, my amateur MMA career. And so it always feels like home in Omaha, and so that I just got the call, and I obviously would never turn something like that down.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then just the actual difference with like the no gloves as opposed to even the small MMA gloves. Like, are you training any differently? Like, are you callousing your hands up? Anything like that? Like, what's that approach to a bare knuckle fight as opposed to even just boxing or MMA?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I guess I'm doing a lot more cardio, of
Mm,
course, with boxing. Of course, like training for like I love strength training. I do a lot of strength training, but for this fight, I had to hold back on it because I just move a lot faster when I have less muscle. And of course, to make 115, I really can't do as much strength training as I love. So that was really hard for me because I really love strength training. My
yeah,
base, when I got into MMA, my base was that strength training. That's all I did. So that mental and internal dialogue work with myself is really important with my own personal workouts. So I didn't really get to have those as much, or I had to figure out a different way to do that. So lots of running, lots of cardio. I do have a bag that I hit that's meant for bare knuckles.
mm,
So I do certain things that help to harden my knuckles, and I got to start more. I got to start doing more of that for sure because that's really helpful. That is really good. Another thing that I do a lot of, which I attribute to just like my high volume punches, is I do a lot of shadow boxing, but with weights.
mm,
So like all day long, like I'm doing like 2 pounders, sometimes like 5 pounders,
yeah,
and it's just nonstop. So that when I'm bare knuckle, like these things feel like feathers. There's just
right.
there's so much power. Like sometimes when I'm in boxing training, like hitting those pads, I'm just like, dang, like I don't want to be the person on that other side. And
Yeah,
I'm really tough. Like I'm not gonna turn out a challenge, but it's like, dang, I don't want to be the receiving person on these punches. Like
right.
they're just really hard. So
Yeah.
and they've always been like that. So it's just like I just like it's just like I love punching. Like I have a lot of natural talents with my punching, and I love the competition. And I just once I have like a name on a contract, like I'm always training real hard. Anyways, that's just my life. That's just I just love to feel better for myself every day. It's not even about beating someone up or anything other than just being better myself. But once I have someone who I get to train for, like it just enhances that so much more.
Mhm.
And it's just a lot of fun. I'm really lucky to be where I am.
Yeah. Another thing I like to talk about with fighters is like the recovery aspect. I'm sure you're always doing some stuff, being that you've always been into fitness and all that. But I like the alternate methods, like the cryo chambers, the saunas, everything like that. Has that stuff changed for you at all since becoming a fighter, or have you always been kind of in that world?
Yeah, you know what? I would say I didn't really get into it too much until I became a doctor. So maybe about like, gosh, I think like 6 years now I've been a doctor, maybe a little bit longer. But I didn't really get seriously into like all of that stuff until I was a doctor. Before that, I was just like Googling stuff like what's the best, supplement to help my cardio, and like fish
Mm,
oil would come up, or like
ooh,
CoQ10. So I'd be like chugging like, like liquid fish. Like I would chug like nasty stuff before sparring classes and stuff. Oh man,
yeah,
but I'm telling you, like it really does work though.
yeah.
And so like in my brain, it was like, dang, like there's got to be more stuff out there, like natural stuff
Mhm.
that we can do. Fish oil, I really love. Like if you get like high dose liquid fish oil and you chug it for like a sparring class, it really helps to keep your heart rate down. So
Mm,
you, or even for grappling as well too, it really helps to keep your heart rate down. So if you can only last, 3 rounds before you feel like you got to sit out and your heart's beating, like now you'll last like 4 to 5 rounds. Like it really helps to keep that heart rate down. And as a fighter, like you got to keep your internal rhythm. You got to keep it down. You can't let that physical heartbeat or heart rate or anything like that interfere with you. Otherwise, it just affects your cardio. So lots of cool stuff. But yeah, I never really got too intense with it until I became a doctor, and really too, like I've been a poor student my whole life too. A lot of that stuff like really is expensive.
yeah.
And even now, like I can't really afford even all that stuff right now, but I'm really lucky. There's a lot of things that I get cost price for, so I'm really lucky in that respect. But I mean, healthcare is an investment. It really is an investment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now you said it when you first got into it, you weren't like necessarily the biggest fan, like Chuck Liddell and everything like that. Now that you're in it and you're a fighter yourself, have you kind of gone back? Do you study the game at all? Do you watch UFC now? Like, how much are you into as a fan?
Um, Not really, not so much. I'd say I probably watch more BKFC than
Yeah,
UFC now. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I'm just so busy. I just don't have time to really follow anyone's career. But I'm certainly watching a lot of BKFC events.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you're busy. You're full time, doctor, trainer, mom. But outside of fighting, do you have any hobbies? Like I can tell you, high energy, and it takes a certain type of person to do bare knuckle as opposed to anything else. Have you ever like been skydiving? Do you like to do any kind of crazy things like that, or
You
just
know
any
what,
kind of hobbies?
yeah, skydiving is definitely on my bucket list.
Mm,
But yeah, like I love all of that adrenaline junkie type stuff. But one of my things that I love to do is I love hiking. So I love just be like being out in the wilderness, just hiking, being away from everything. And so that I would say that's probably my hobby, other than just working out and training. I mean, it's hard to kind of get away right now with work and business and everything. But
sure.
I'd say like my getaway is hiking and getting in the wilderness. I can't wait for my kids to get a little bit older. Right now, it's kind of like we can only do like things that little kids can do for hikes. Otherwise they start whining a little bit too soon. But pretty soon I'd love to take my kids on long hikes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Seems like you obviously have the energy to match them. A lot of people like get tuckered out by their kids, but you seem like you hang in there perfectly fine.
Yeah, I know. My kids love being. I mean, they're immersed in the boxing and wrestling and kind of the MMA type world. So they really love it. They got a lot of energy. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. My kids definitely keep me on my toes.
Yeah. Would you, if they ever came to you, you said like they're young now, if they want to get into fighting, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I would definitely support them.
Mhm.
I didn't really get a lot of the support that I maybe would have excelled me a little bit faster in my career.
Mm,
Ever since really ever since I started, it was kind of like like why is she fighting? Like what for? Kind of thing. Like
right.
what's it going to lead to? But like I said, like it's never about beating someone or proving anything to anyone. It's always just been about myself.
Mm,
And so if you don't really understand that, then it's probably hard to understand why I fight.
sure.
It's not to gain anything other than just my own self growth. And so yeah, absolutely. If my kids wanted that support, I would back them 100%. But I would definitely encourage them to find a good balance with school or their academics, and make sure it's just not their only avenue.
Mm.
I don't think fighting should ever be really anyone's avenue. It's not a forever thing. So we all need to have like our own backups, and we need to find something that we love in the background. And I think you can do a job and follow dreams and fighting at the same time. It's like fighting is a lifestyle. Like, and mixed martial arts, it's a lifestyle. It's when you make part of your life, like you can do other things too.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Now, just what are your future goals? Like, I know you just fought a month ago, but like future goals, fight wise, and just in general for you.
Yep, and so I believe I heard that they might be coming to Omaha at the end of the year,
Ooh,
and I would like to get on that card again. So I believe like November. I heard. I don't know if it's written in stone, but at the end of the year, like the next time they come to Omaha, that's when I would like to go. I'm not really a fan of fighting, within about 3 to 4 months of any fight, just because if anytime you're in there, like we're getting hit to the head. So it's, whether you have a deep concussion or a little bit of a concussion, there's always mild concussion symptoms. And so we all got it. And the sooner you fight, the more likely it is to get knocked out by a lesser opponent, just, by getting a weak punch, so I'm not going to get dropped by a weak ass punch, just because I went in 3, 4 months sooner. That being said, of course, it was a really good opportunity if I think about it. But right now, my goal is I'm training for a bikini competition in August, and so it's always been on my bucket list. I want to become a professional bikini competitor. I keep qualifying for nationals, but I actually got to do nationals to actually win that. I just never had time to do nationals. But anyways, I'm doing a competition in 3 months, and then I'll be ready for November. So I'm bulking up right now. I'm not going to stay skinny at 115. I'm going to bulk up and do bikini, and then I'll come back down and dance again.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the name of this show is Championship Harvest. Just what do you think it takes to make somebody quote unquote champion outside of the ring?
I mean, I think just being a good positive person and just motivating people. There's so many people who just need motivation. And you don't realize how many people you can touch by just being positive. Just be, just put down like whatever's bringing you down, whatever you want to whine about, and just be positive. We all got things we can whine about. And just being positive just really activates the positivity in other people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely perfect. I love it. That's all I have for you today. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to tap in with
Good.
us. Can't wait to watch your journey. Hope to see you at the end of the year and everything like that. Thank you again.
Thank you. Awesome. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.